This is going to sound like a crazy proposition coming from your librarian, but have you thought about not using printed text when it comes to accommodating the Common Core requirements for informational and literary nonfiction? The reason why I'm making this proposal is from what you have in front of you, as well as some of the text exemplar lists that I have seen over the last few years. So I want to explain where I think some great resources are online, but I'm going to start with this slide that you have in front of you. This is from the North Carolina DPI explanation of why the Common Core requires what it does in terms of its quality of text and range, as you can see. The elementary grades definitely do focus on a blend of this literary and informational text, so fiction and nonfiction. Once you get to secondary, they definitely add in a lot more elements in terms of novels, poetry, drama, manuscripts, articles, primary resources. So you're going to get this very big blend, but most of the time we think about the print part of it. What this slide I wanted to point out to, though, says right here, including digital sources. We want you to be thinking about, is there other places that I can get text or audio or video that will help my students in the classroom without having to actually read a book? And again, I know this sounds crazy coming from a librarian, but let me show you why I think there's some difficulties in finding the right text every time. The first thing I want to start with is the K1. So let me jump over to a different screen. And this is the K1 text exemplars from the Common Core standards. Most of these are ones that I can guarantee show up in most elementary libraries. Are You My Mother, Little Bear, Green Eggs and Ham, Frog and Toad. These are staples. They're classics. You can't deny that these are great books, especially for the grade level we're talking about. With the exception of something that may be difficult to get because it's out of print, I think these books will show up. But let me scroll back down here and show you some of the informational text that it brings up. These are a lot more challenging. A leaky, wonderful author, My Five Senses, difficult to find if you don't already have it in the library. Same things with this I Read Signs. It's a great book, and we happen to have a good copy of it at the library at MES, but Donald Cruz, Truck, I don't have. I do have Donald Cruz books, but I don't have this specific one. This gets even more challenging when we get up to the 4-5 text exemplar that I'm going to jump over again and show you. Right here towards the top are the fiction stories that they suggest using. And when I was looking over these, I realized only this last one, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, was actually published in the 2000s. Everything else was published pre-2000. And I adore Tuck Everlasting. And The Little Prince is one of my very favorite books ever. And my mom will tell you that she's actually recently reread The Secret Garden. So I would not challenge that these aren't wonderful books. The problem is that there's also wonderful contemporary books. There's other things out there that I think would interest students just as much as ones that were published before they were born. The last thing I want to go down and show you on this page that I found to be really interesting are these informational texts. It actually flows down under this page too. So they do give wonderful examples. They cover all different kinds of topics. And Seymour Simon, one of the best nonfiction writers and photographers out there. But until I looked at this list and I happened to go out and buy several of these books after I started 2.5 years ago at MES, we only had one in our school library. So it just goes to show how arbitrarily they picked these, and you are lucky to get them. Several of them are out of print, so unless you can find it on a secondhand website, you're not even able to get it from, say, Amazon. So that's something that really triggered me to start looking more into digital resources in terms of finding something that can work for teachers on the spot. So if I can't order a book or if the book won't get there in time to accommodate a lesson. I wanted to start finding new ways that I could make text available to teachers. And the best thing that I have found so far is called readworks.org. And I'd like to show you what this looks like as somebody new that's going to log in, go to readworks.org, and potentially sign up for an account. This is free to register, and it's absolutely a wonderful resource. I really recommend, if this is something you think will work for you in your classroom, to just go ahead, sign in. All you need to do is use your school email address, give yourself a password, tell them that you teach in North Carolina, and it should set up everything beautifully for you. I'm going to click on sign in and then just navigate you quickly through several of the features of the site that I think will help. This is broken up in a couple different ways. Because I've already used the site and I've started to log some interesting things that I might want to explore, I have some lessons in my binder, and I'll go show you that in just a second. I also have to show you this lessons and units. I'll walk through this as well as these reading passages. If there's more that you want to know about where readworks.org comes from, you can obviously go over here to About Readworks. My binder is where you're going to store things that you come across that you want to go back to and remember. A passage that I saved already, and I'll show you, is this Planet Y. And all this is, it's not a lesson, it's literally just a one-page passage that I could print out and give to students, and it comes with a question set that's one page that I can print out and give to students. This unit is a lot more comprehensive. This is about a book. It's catered towards 6th grade, but again, my high 5th grade English teachers or my AIG teacher I know could probably use something like this, and I know that I have 5 or 6 copies of it in my library. So if I ever had a teacher who wanted to do a literacy circle, this would be a wonderful book, and I could give this unit right to them. So you can see it has 79 pages of information. It does not include the book, but those 79 pages cover teacher guides, it covers lessons, so things like this, what is a mystery? It's a whole lesson on what a mystery is. Well, really, I could just take that lesson and accommodate it to wherever I wanted to with 4th or 5th grade, but it builds into this entire series or this entire unit, as you can see. So I think this is really a wonderful way that it's built, and you can see right here I could just jump to certain lessons as well. And since I'm under 6th grade, it has several different novels listed here that could be used in the same way. A Wrinkle in Time is one of them, for example. So let me go back and show one more thing. Here's a lesson. So this is what the actual lesson looks like, much shorter, 6 pages. It's going to tell me what Lexile number the actual book is that they suggest you use, as well as learning goals, how long the lesson's supposed to take, and the materials that you'll use. And then it just outlines a lesson for you. Goes from, which I think is a wonderful setup, how the teacher will model it, how to assess that things are working, guided practice, and then an independent practice, which is what the students will be doing. I'm going to show you what this text and materials tab looks like. Here's where you're going to get any printables. And this is a little confusing. So this is the actual book that they suggest using for this lesson and what it's built around, but they don't give you the book. So we're back to square one, where if the library doesn't have the book that you want to use for a lesson, either we need to find a supplemental option or order it, if there's enough time, and if it's in print. So that's kind of an interesting, but this one says buy at Amazon, so I'm pretty confident I'd be able to get it. So that's things that are organized in my binder. These are 3 lessons I've already found. I wanted to keep them somewhere where I could go back and easily find them. If I now want to go find things by topic, by grade, or by specific unit, I'm going to click on Get Lessons and Units. And you'll see that it's organized alphabetically by unit. But I also can see what the lesson would be about, and I can see what grade it caters to. And I also have the option to change up here the grade, what kind of unit. Do I want to teach comprehension? Do I want to teach a novel? Or do I want to work on a certain skill? And if I do want to teach a certain skill, over here I have all different kinds of options. At MES, our library is organized by genre. So I'm going to click genre, and I'm going to hit apply. And I can see all the different options I have for me. Again, some of the grades are appropriate. Some might be a little high, but I can change if I need to change. And I'm going to work on strategies for identifying genres. This is something I'm currently doing with 4th grade. So here I can see that this is exactly what I want them to be able to do. I want them to be able to identify a genre, looking at theme or characters, the cover of the book. I want it to be, without looking at what shelf I found it on, I'm going to know or have a good guess of what the genre is. So again, same structure as the last one I showed you, but I'm going to click on this text and materials. And what it's going to ask me to do actually is use books from the library. So that's pretty neat. And then this last tab is what standard am I covering. Like I said when I signed up, I told ReadWorks that I work in North Carolina. So it's giving me North Carolina standards. And this standard that I would be, if I did this lesson, I would be covering the standard RL5. So I'm going to save this to my binder because I know that this is something I'll probably use. If you look over on the left, instead of going back and searching the way I first searched, I can look through all these skills and strategies. Or if I go back to get lessons and units, I can pick comprehension. And I'll know I can go just to 3rd grade. And I think the reason why you're seeing K through 5 here, if you sign up and you're a secondary teacher, when I typed in my profile, I said that I taught K through 5. So if you teach secondary grades, whatever grades you plug in, you're going to see. If you're a science teacher or a social studies teacher or a math teacher, I don't want you to think that this does not apply to you, because you definitely can search for things based on a science unit. I know a lot of the standards that they cover have to do with informational text and a lot less with literary, so that's something to consider. I'm going to click on this librarian who measured the earth, and you'll see that this actually has a math component as well. So I think that that's really an interesting thing, that they did a very good job of not just making it literary, that there is a lot of informational text built into this as well. The final thing I'd like to show off is this reading passages. So this takes away from the actual lesson, and if you are just looking for a passage that you can print and use, and you make your own lesson around it, this is exactly where you'd want to go. Again, I'm going to get it in alphabetical order by passage, but I can also sort by grade. I could sort by Lexile. Here's what I was talking about. If you're a science teacher and you want to teach about space science or life science, or if you're a gym teacher, you've got some sports and rec information. So it's really neat that it covers so many different topics. It does not just focus on your standard ELA topics. Well, I just think this is a really, really interesting way that you can sort. I'm going to go actually to a secondary level and hit apply, so you can see what the 9, 10 levels would look like. And you can see it covers, there's a lot to see. There's not just 10 or 15 different topics. There's quite a bit. And you're going to get a mostly informational, I think, once you get to secondary. I'm going to click on one, though, so you can see what the example might look like. Here's one that's called The Sounds of Baseball. You're going to get a passage as well as that question set that I explained earlier. So you can see it's just a regular nonfiction passage. It should help on working on stamina. There's 2 long pages. And then it's going to ask specific questions about the text. So it definitely builds up that comprehension skill. It practices using the text as evidence. And in most cases, what I've come across is this right here, that there's going to be some kind of a writing element, that it's not just circle and guess. In just about every question set that I've looked at so far, at least one time do they ask you to, or ask a student to write out their answer. So we're in secondary, so they're asking for about 3 to be answered. And here you'll see there's actually a teacher guide with the correct answers. My challenge for you is to find one of these lessons, find a reading passage, and use it just one time for a lesson, and just see how easy it is to have it already there for you. I think a lot of times, especially when the Common Core was rolled out, there was this intimidation factor of having to start from scratch, throw all of your lessons away, and pick up fresh, which is good in some sense, but at the same time, I think now that we're 3 years into this, you can see that you can use a lot of what you've used in the past. It's just a matter of manipulating it to fit the standard. But the only option is not text exemplars. There's so many different things out there. Readworks.org is definitely the best, in my opinion, in terms of having such a variety of text already available to you. But I do also highly recommend looking at other sources, looking where it says look at or challenge yourself further below this video. You'll see that I have a link to the Library of Congress, and there's primary resources listed there. This is probably better for secondary teachers, but I think some 4th and 5th grade teachers may be able to find something suitable there that is informational. It's rooted in history, and it's a totally different way for students to read. It's not out of a book, and that's really what I'm trying to get at eventually, because it's natural to them. The other thing to think about is using other ways, other digital sources, and I'm going to show you with this book called Snowy Day. There's a unit I came across here that was for kindergarten called The Snowy Day, and what I thought was so fun about this is it asks you to read this book aloud and then pair it with the snow science passage. So they're getting The Snowy Day, which is a wonderful, cute story, and they're going to be matching it with a informational text piece, and if it's something you post up on your whiteboard and you read along, it's digital. They're not reading off a piece of paper. They're seeing the text digitally and seeing that that's one way that you get information. And what I really found to be very fun about this is when I went to this lesson, I think I've said in the past, or when I was first explaining about finding the books, that most of them don't have the actual book. If it's a full book like this, it does not. This one does. This one has a very, very cute version of, oh, I thought it would link. I think on the actual page where the lesson was, it has a link so that there's an audio version of this book. So somebody else reading the book to the kids, which is a whole new element when it comes to understanding text. So I highly recommend giving this a try. If you do and you decide to do a lesson, please go to our discussion channel and let us know what lesson you did, what you thought was great about it, and maybe something that challenged you that you would like to see differently. So there you go. You have your librarian telling you, go try something digital.